Shadows of the Steppe. The truth more powerful than any legend. Europe was burning, its people crushed by empires. But where the maps ended, a dangerous freedom was born. Forget the myths of savage bandits or simple peasants. Beyond the Dnieper mist rose a brotherhood that answered to no king, but lived by an absolute code of honor. Who were they really? We are pulling back the curtain on a lost brotherhood whose military and diplomatic genius was centuries ahead of its time. Stay with us. We are dismantling 5 great myths to reveal the true face of the Cossacks. This is not legend. It is something far more powerful. Myth number 1. Were the Cossacks really just runaway peasants? For generations, that is exactly what empires wanted people to believe. The image was simple. Desperate peasants escaping their masters and hiding in the wild steppe. A chaotic rebellion, nothing more. But the real story was far more complex. Yes, some escaped serfs joined the Cossacks in search of freedom, but they were never the whole picture. The backbone of the Cossack world was built by experienced warriors, frontier defenders, minor nobles, educated townsmen, and skilled adventurers. These were people who understood war, politics, and survival. The Cossack community was not a mob of fugitives. It became one of the most advanced military societies in Eastern Europe. They built a functioning military republic. They had commanders, administration, diplomacy, intelligence networks, and written records. Their hetmans negotiated directly with kings, sultans, and even the Pope. These were not rebels hiding from civilization. They were building a new one. And then came something extraordinary. In 1710, Philip Orlik created a written constitution that appeared decades before the United States Constitution. Long before much of Europe embraced democracy, the Cossacks were already limiting executive power and defending individual rights. They understood something many rulers feared. Freedom without responsibility becomes chaos. But responsibility without freedom becomes slavery. And this is where the past suddenly feels very modern. Today, the world watches Ukrainians organize volunteer networks, adapt technology, and defend their country with incredible speed. To those who know Cossack history, this feels familiar, because the Cossack tradition was always built on initiative, self-organization, and people who refused to wait for orders from above. 4 centuries later, the spirit of the steppe still survives. And this is only the first myth. If this hidden history surprises you, leave a like and stay with us, because the next myth challenges something even more unexpected. Were the Cossacks truly just a wild and chaotic horde? Or did the steppe hide one of the most remarkable experiments in democracy the world had ever seen? Myth number 2. Were the Cossacks simply a wild and chaotic horde? That is the image many empires tried to preserve. A lawless camp, violent men, no order, no political culture. But the reality inside the Zaporizhian Sich was something very different. At a time when most of Europe lived under absolute monarchy, the Cossacks created a system that shocked foreign visitors. Major decisions were made in the Rada, the Cossack Council. Military campaigns, foreign alliances, and leadership itself could all be debated openly. And the hetman was not an untouchable ruler. He was elected. His authority depended on the trust of the community. If he abused power, failed in leadership, or lost the confidence of the Cossacks, he could be removed immediately. Power in the Sich was treated like responsibility, not privilege. This was not modern democracy. It could be harsh, chaotic, and unforgiving, but for its time, the idea was revolutionary. Authority existed only while the community accepted it. And centuries later, that same spirit still feels familiar. Modern Ukraine is often described as unusually difficult to control from above. People organize quickly. Volunteer movements appear almost instantly. Citizens demand accountability. from leaders. To those who understand Cossack history, this is not surprising. The tradition of self-organization runs deep in the Ukrainian story, because in the Cossack world, freedom was never something given by rulers. It survived only when ordinary people defended it themselves. If this hidden side of history surprises you, leave a like and stay with us. Because the next myth may be the most unexpected of all. Were the Cossacks truly just horsemen of the steppe, or did they become some of the most feared raiders on the Black Sea? Myth number 3. Were the Cossacks only riders of the steppe? Popular legend almost always shows them on horseback, but the great empires feared them on the water just as much. The Cossacks became some of the most dangerous raiders on the Black Sea. Their secret was the chaika, a small, lightweight boat that looked primitive beside the massive warships of the Ottoman Empire. But appearances were deceptive. The chaikas were fast, difficult to spot, and able to move through shallow waters where large ships could not follow. Under cover of darkness, Cossack crews crossed the Black Sea, struck enemy ports without warning, freed captives, destroyed supplies, and disappeared before fleets could react. Even Constantinople was forced to strengthen its defenses against them. And then came the stories that sounded almost impossible. Some historical accounts describe primitive underwater tactics. Cossacks reportedly used overturned boats as air chambers, allowing them to approach enemy ships unnoticed. Historians still debate how accurate these stories are, but they reveal something important. The Cossacks were feared not because they were stronger. They were feared because they were unpredictable. And centuries later, that same logic appears again. Today, Ukraine uses fast naval drones to challenge a much larger Black Sea fleet. The strategy feels strangely familiar. If you cannot overpower an empire, you force it to fear what it cannot predict. 400 years have passed, but the tactical thinking of the steppe still survives. If this side of Cossack history surprises you, leave a like and stay with us. Because the next myth destroys another old stereotype. Myth number 4. Were the Cossacks only warriors? That stereotype survived for centuries. Many enemies preferred to describe them as destroyers from the steppe. But the reality was far more complicated. Life on the frontier demanded more than courage. It demanded constant adaptation. One of the greatest examples was the Cossack tabor. Wagons were chained together to create a moving fortress across the open steppe. In territory with almost no natural defenses, the Cossacks learned how to build protection wherever they stopped. And they did, far more than fight. They built boats, cast cannons, improved fortifications, and developed their own military technologies. A Cossack was rarely just a soldier. He also needed to be a craftsman, builder, navigator, hunter, and scout. The community survived because people mastered many skills at once. In the steppe, survival belonged to those who adapted fastest. And centuries later, that same mentality can still be seen in Ukraine today. Modern Ukrainian engineers and volunteers have become known for building drones, modifying weapons, and solving battlefield problems with limited resources. The pattern feels familiar. When stronger enemies rely on size and mass, the Cossack tradition relies on creativity. The spirit of the steppe was never only about the sword. It was also about intelligence, adaptation, and the ability to build under pressure. If this hidden side of Cossack history surprises you, leave a like and stay with us. Because one final myth remains, and it may be the most important of them all. Myth number 5. Was Moscow's power always unstoppable? For centuries, imperial propaganda tried to create a simple image, an invincible empire, and loyal Cossacks serving it. But history tells a very different story. In 1618, Moscow entered one of the greatest crises in its history, the Time of Troubles. As the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth advanced toward Moscow, Hetman Petro Konashevich Sahaidakhny arrived with thousands of Cossacks. and they did not move as a supporting force. The Cossacks launched fast raids deep into Muscovite territory, capturing fortified towns and spreading panic behind enemy lines. Soon, combined forces reached the walls of Moscow itself. The Kremlin stood under direct threat. Winter eventually stopped the final assault, but Moscow was forced into negotiations. The Truce of Dulino followed, and the Commonwealth achieved one of the greatest territorial victories in its history. The Cossacks had played a decisive role. Then came another defining moment, the Battle of Khotin in 1621. A massive Ottoman army moved toward Europe, and once again, the Cossacks stood at the center of the defense. Their fortifications, mobility, and constant night attacks helped exhaust one of the strongest armies of the age. Khotin stopped the Ottoman advance northward, and it became a shared victory for Ukrainians, Poles, and Lithuanians. That history still matters today. The modern partnership between Ukraine, Poland, and Lithuania did not appear from nowhere. Its roots reach deep into the past, into Khotin, into the campaigns against Moscow, and into centuries of shared resistance against larger empires. The lesson remains the same. A powerful empire is not automatically an invincible one. History has already proven that determined people, fighting together for freedom, can stop forces much larger than themselves. If this hidden history surprised you, subscribe and stay with us. Because the real story of the Cossacks is far more extraordinary than the myths. The Cossacks were not perfect heroes. Their history included violence, conflict, and tragedy. But one thing survived through every century. They refused to live on their knees. The steppe was harsh and unforgiving, yet it created people who believed freedom was worth more than safety without honor. That is why the Cossack spirit never disappeared. It survived in songs, chronicles, and in the character of Ukraine itself. And even today, the world still recognizes something familiar in that spirit. People who continue to fight even against stronger enemies. Not because it is easy, but because they know no other way to live. As free people. If this journey through the real history of the Cossacks moved you, leave a like, subscribe, and explore our other videos uncovering the forgotten stories of the past. Because freedom begins with knowing the truth.